As enthusiasts, we harken back to the good old days, the golden age of the European luxury sports sedan market, which some may claim hit its peak in the late 90s. But even today in 2023, we still have the Mercedes Benz C43, BMW M3, and also the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. But it is safe to say that sedans are on their way out, where performance crossovers have pretty much taken center stage, whether it's the Mercedes Benz GLC 63 or maybe even a BMW X5M. But if you're somebody who doesn't want to buy a crossover and you still want the German engineering of a fun sedan, well, you're in luck, because today we're taking a look at the all-new 2023 Mercedes Benz C43. Now, for most luxury sedans in this market, they're closely related to the base model. They just have a better powertrain or a stiffer suspension or maybe even a better transmission. But for the C43, this is nothing like the C300. And in fact, there's a lot of mechanical and technological aspects about this car that makes it quite special right now in the era of electrification, but also in the era in which crossovers are kind of dominating the market. And in this video, I want to go over everything about the C43. Take a look at the exterior, the interior, and definitely take it out for a test drive to see how it compares to the BMW M340i, Audi S4, and also last generation C43, and also see why, if you are looking at buying a luxury sports sedan right now in 2023, then maybe taking a look at the C43 might be a great decision. Now, before I get in this video, I'd like to thank Mercedes Benz of Burlington in Burlington, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Mercedes-Benz inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. With the inevitable ending of internal combustion powertrains on the horizon, enthusiasts have questioned how much time left do we all have with V6s or V8s. Mercedes in 2023 has helped answer that question with the C43 and C63, as both engines have been dropped for a more favorable four-cylinder. In a market that draws in customers who enjoy performance over luxury, the C43 has been the more affordable option that still gives you a taste of AMG engineering. Considering that Audi and BMW still use 6 cylinders, Mercedes-Benz's choice wasn't simply done to one-up their German rivals when it comes to emissions, but rather to help save this segment from going fully electric prematurely. Starting off with pricing, the model we have today is the Pinnacle trim, coming in at $62,700, which would fall in line with a fully equipped Audi S4 and BMW M340i with xDrive. Typically, the three larger German manufacturers price their sports sedans competitively, and your choice will ultimately boil down to handling, straight-line speed, and possibly even interior technology. The C43 for 2023 isn't just a mechanical leap forward for the brand, where its distinguishing qualities are solely predicated on horsepower figures and 0 to 60 times, as F1-inspired technology turns your standard Turbo 4 into a powertrain that can directly compete against the larger engines in this market, which we'll discuss further throughout this review. Taking much of its styling cues from the C300, there's both a sense of the sedan being unassuming at first glance, while at the same time having the appearance of a smaller AMG GT 4-door coupe. While you could probably list off the minor cosmetic differences compared to the C300, for us, it's the vertical bars on the grille and that small AMG badge that lets us know this car means business. The Starling Blue metallic paint offsets Mercedes' lower profile designs and draws quite a bit of attention, as we experienced during our time with the C43. Of course, with the LED headlights, this car makes quite the statement as it passes you by, and a common theme for 2023 is that it takes on this sportier C300 personality, but shows its true colors when you hit the road. Moving over to the side profile, we have the optional 19-inch 10-spoke wheels, which is the perfect size for a sports sedan that has a performance suspension, despite the active dampers. You can upsize to 20s, however, if ride quality is a top priority, sticking with the 18s or 19s will likely be the better decision. Unlike the C300, you'll feel connected to the road. And thanks to the rear axle steering, a weekly commute no longer becomes tedious, but fun. You'll have body color matching side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. As we make our way around to the back, since our C43 isn't equipped with the AMG Night package, chrome accents provide a classy and upscale color contrast, especially for the rear diffuser that outlines the quad exhaust tips. But Mercedes-Benz still found a way to incorporate some gloss black trim for the final third of this sedan. Just like up front, you'll have full LED taillights for a modern appearance, but not receiving enough attention is the smoother and streamlined body lines for this generation, which keeps the C43 looking sophisticated despite its aggressive driving dynamics. Under the hood, the C43 is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 402 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a 9-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. The first concern on everyone's minds is whether this generation holds a candle to the V6 offered on the outgoing model. And while 2023 does turn the page from a mechanical aspect, this sports sedan provides a driving experience that's unique and unlike anything we've seen so far in this market. And some of that can be attributed to the 48-volt mild hybrid system and the small electric motor on the turbocharger shaft. Despite 0 to 60 times coming in at 4.6 seconds, according to Mercedes-Benz, the on-road performance would state otherwise, as it fell quicker under heavier accelerations. Catching some potential buyers off guard is how aggressive the 9-speed dual-clutch is, where the violent gear shifts could make even the most stern person crack a smile. For the drivetrain, all-wheel drive does come standard, but it is rear-wheel biased, and when it comes to fuel economy, you're looking at right around 19 miles per gallon in the city and 26 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, you're greeted by the optional power adjustable heated leather seats for both the driver and passenger, with memory seat functionality also included. It's the minute you get behind the wheel where the C43 immediately takes on a different character than the C300, as the aggressive bolsters and quality of the upholstery sets a tone for what you'll be experiencing on the road. This is taken one step further with the AMG Performance steering wheel wrapped in Nappa leather, which provides the grip necessary when cornering on a winding back road. While the C43 still demonstrates its luxurious DNA with the softer touch materials on the dashboard and armrests, the silver diamond pattern inlay for the interior trim does have sportier undertones. Returning to that steering wheel, there'll be a dial placed on the right, which controls your drive mode selector, and on the left will be the buttons where you can quickly adjust the AMG dynamics and active dampers to either soften or stiffen the suspension. From an interior technology perspective, there's not much different besides the increase in displays you can choose from for the digital gauge cluster and also the head-up display. By using the haptic feedback buttons mounted on the steering wheel, you can customize what you see in front of you. And as we've alluded to many times when featuring newer Mercedes-Benz products, is that the resolution and quality is on par with the tech you'll find in Audi and BMW. Then moving over to the infotainment system, you'll have a 12-inch touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation and augmented reality. And also equipped, we have the $650 Burmester 3D surround sound system. As we saw with the C300 and GLC, most of the buttons have been removed to centralize all functions to the head unit, including the dual zone climate control, which receives its own dedicated menu. Unlike with the prior generation, Mercedes cleaned up the menu layout to make this touchscreen more user-friendly, and while it will take some time to get used to, it eventually becomes second nature. Helping you park the C43, there'll be a variety of camera angles, including a 360-degree 3D surround view to ensure you don't curb your wheels when parking on a city street. Moving on to the center console, tucked away will be a wireless phone charging pad, a USB-C input, and 2 cup holders. Then for the center storage compartment, you'll have plenty of room for smaller items with 2 additional USB-C outlets. And rounding out the front seating area, above will be a power moonroof to let in a lot of natural light to the interior. Continuing on to the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side. And this seat has been adjusted a little further back. It's also somewhat on a recline. And I'm pretty comfortable back here, most because of the way these seats are shaped and molded. You have a good amount of bolstering and support. They're also firm as well. And also because it's a sedan and the way Mercedes-Benz designs their interiors, these seats are a bit lower to the ground, maximizing the amount of headroom you have here to work with. Now, we take a look at interior dimensions for the second row. For legroom, the C43 is actually a bit smaller compared to the BMW MT40i and Audi S4. However, if this is not going to be your family car, then that is not going to be too much of a concern at all, because for average-sized adults, they should have plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom, and shoulder room really isn't that bad either, although I do think that for a car of this size, you're not squeezing in that third person, but let's find out. Now, moving on to the center seat, you do have some placements for your feet, but the center hump is very aggressive, giving you more of this Grand Tour-like feel, and that's kind of what the C43 is all about. And we're going to talk about this quite a bit throughout this review, that the C43 really isn't like the C300 at all. So when you are hopping into this car, it's not going to be a luxurious experience necessarily like the C300. This is geared towards the enthusiast, but also a driver who wants aggressive handling and a fun driving experience. And the interior really helps emphasize that, and you see that with this Grand Tour-like style. Then on the driver's side, the seat is adjusted a bit further up to someone around my height, around 5'5". And I have a good amount of legroom here. So I think for average-sized adults overall, everyone should be comfortable. What I also like too is that the door panels have some softer touch materials, and also you do have an armrest as well, giving you some of those creature comforts. Also back here, you do have two rear air vents. Now, we do not have heated outboard seats or even USB-C inputs. However, we do get a center armrest with two cup holders. Now, coming around to the back, you are going to receive a power trunk. And inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at just under 11 cubic feet of room, which would fall in line with most of its closer rivals, such as the BMW M340i and Audi S4. Now, don't let those numbers fool you, because there's a lot of space back here, even though at first glance it does look rather small and typical for a sedan. But I was able to fit all my camera gear today, no problem. So it has 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And still had extra room for some other items as well, maybe if I want to go grocery shopping afterwards. So I think that if you are going on a road trip with a significant other, you could probably fit 3, 4, or 5 bags of luggage. Also on this model, on both sides of the rear cargo area, you have some buttons that will conveniently lower the second row seats. So that way, you're not wasting time having to manually lower them, which is something I really love to see. Now, of course, the C43 is not going to be overly practical or family friendly, but if you do need to fit longer items, you can definitely do that with this car. Then on the left side of the rear cargo area, you will have some netting for some smaller items, such as a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Not too surprising, we do not have a spare tire underneath the cargo floor, but that's to be expected for a vehicle in this market. And finally, once you're done, just press the button and the trunk will close automatically. And now, let's go on that test drive. So we're now behind the wheel of the 2023 Mercedes Benz C43 AMG. Let's take this car out for a quick test ride to see how it performs, how it handles, how it drives, how it compares to other sedans in this market, such as the Audi S4 and BMW MT40i, but also to see if it's a steal in this segment and at its price point at around $70,000. Now, for a lot of people who are approaching this market, they'll probably think, oh, you know, an S4 or an MT40i or the C43. It was just a more performance-oriented version of a C300 or Audi A4. And at least for the C43, they couldn't be more wrong, because from the ground up, this is its own entity. It's nothing like the C300 at all, not only mechanically, but also technologically, where this car has F1-inspired technology with a small electric motor on the turbocharged shaft. And really, it gives this car some of the most crisp accelerations I've ever experienced in this segment. Now, it also has a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which, as I discussed quite a bit with Mercedes-Benz, it does offer a lot more than what you're going to experience with the 48-volt mild hybrid systems with BMW and also the mild hybrid systems with Audi, where it's not just the auto start stop system or just adding some smoothness to the accelerations. This goes a bit further than that, where this car also gives you a boost of an additional 13 horsepower, and really you're going to have an on-track experience with the sedan when you are cruising on back roads or you're in the suburbs. This 9-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission is so animated with the upshifts and also the downshifts as well. It's nothing like the ZF 8-speeds found in the S4 and BMW M340i, which isn't a bad thing at all. Now, also another thing too is that you do have rear axle steering, which gives you really one of the best steering and handling capabilities I've ever experienced in this market, where you have a car that kind of emulates or resembles using a racing simulator. If you've had the opportunity to maybe test out one and you've driven an F1 car at Spa or the Nürburgring or even a GT3 car, you're probably thinking, wow, I wish the handling was like this on my sedan or sports coupe. And with the C43, that's exactly what you're getting here. This car is so much fun, so agile and athletic, but also because of that, because you have the rear axle steering, because you have this stiff suspension, especially on this platform and chassis, a lot of buyers are going to walk into the C43 and think, oh, it's going to be luxurious. It's not, and you certainly feel that, where even though you have sawdust padding on the dashboard or the armrest, or just where it has the same layout as the C300, it's completely different. These seats provide a lot of bolstering and support. They're very aggressive as well, and it really incentivizes you to have fun. And as you can tell, there's that kickback, and you don't get that with the ZF 8-speed. Now, some people will say, well, with the steering, does it take away from the feedback? And yeah, I think it does, because one little nudge of the wheel and you're already over into the next lane. But because you have a car that feels very raw powered, it's a car to me that I think could really captivate you and really excite you every single time you are behind the wheel. I would say though that Mercedes-Benz is compensating when it comes to the handling and cornering ability to make up for the fact that they're downsizing on the powertrains. And a lot of people are going to be missing that V6. But this turbocharged 4-cylinder engine has a lot of character, and with 402-ish horsepower and around 365 pound-feet of torque, this car is very playful for sure. And even though the 0-60 times are around 4.6 seconds, you're not going to notice that at all. It's a very quick car, and in fact, I think Mercedes-Benz is really downplaying the performance of what the C43 is offering. You're still going to get the crackles of the exhaust, which I think some buyers were concerned about when this new generation was announced. But honestly, this has been a very pleasant driving experience. Before we get on to the highway, let's put it in comfort mode. And as you can tell, the exhaust note does relax a bit, does quiet down, so this is a nice setting to be in if you're cruising around in the city or suburbs. Also, nothing too is that the steering does lighten up a bit, but again, Mercedes-Benz has really been working on that to give you more of a aggressive feel behind the wheel, whether it is a C300 or C43. And I'm really appreciative of that, because Mercedes-Benz was falling behind, especially where BMW with their current generation G20 really gives you that stiff handling that the C43 of last generation, or even just the C300 in general, wasn't giving you. But this is really a completely different story. What I also like too is that the brakes are very quick to respond. You don't really need to travel on that brake pedal to slow this car down. So if you do plan on tracking the C43, it's going to be a great companion on those roadways. Let's go back into Sport Plus mode. Hopefully no one in front of me is getting on the highway here. Wow. Ooh. The fact that I could take that corner that tight and I could really straddle that line, that's impressive. There is no body roll with this car whatsoever. And really, in essence, it's a baby AMG GT sedan. There's no turbo lag. And it's just, for a 4-cylinder engine, this shouldn't be possible. And really, just from a technological standpoint, and also mechanically, I really can't sit here and list off the reasons why this is different than an MT40i or Audi S4. This is really a statement in this market, because at some point the rivals will have to downsize on the powertrains, go with the Turbo 4, or maybe really embrace electric technology. And what the C43 is, this is a nice bridge that gaps you between the old days and where we're going in the future. Because you do have that 48 volt mild hybrid system, but you don't feel the electric propulsion. And also, even though that small electric motor is on that turbocharger, you don't really feel any of that make its way into the performance. It just feels all natural. For a car that's powered by a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, it does feel pretty raw. And a lot of it could be because of that 9-speed dual clutch. Now, I'm a huge fan of the ZF 8-speed. I love it when it's paired with the inline 6 and a turbocharged V6. But I'm glad that Mercedes-Benz didn't throw it in this car, because the 9-speed dual clutch, this is special. As a lot of manufacturers are moving away from dual clutches, it's great to see that Mercedes-Benz still has a place for it in its segment. This is, what a fantastic driving experience. Now, getting back to that handling, getting back to that rear axle steering, as you can tell, I am on a very tight back road, and there are trash barrels since it is trash day here. And I have a lot of maneuverability, the athleticism, the agility. This is unlike anything I've experienced in this market and price range. Well, the steering isn't as stiff or as heavy as the MT40i. It's so fluid and direct, and when you really need to throw it into the corner, you do feel as though you're driving a race car. And while F1-inspired technology can be seen as marketing jargon, I think it does have some level of input towards the driving experience, which really gives this car a unique feel on the roadways. As I head back towards the dealership, I do want to circle back on one key aspect for this car, and that is, how does it compare to the C300? Because a lot of buyers might be in the middle wondering, you know, maybe I want to go with a better engine, I want to go with a more aggressive performance, and I want a car that still gives me that luxurious nature to it, but I also want a car that is fun to drive as well. Well, for the C43 for this generation, it is far different than the C300. To me, I think the C300, especially now with the 48 volt mild hybrid system, it does feel more engaging than the outgoing model year. Also, of course, since you do have a retuned 9-speed automatic transmission, I think 255 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque is more than enough for most car shoppers. But if you are somebody that feels like that isn't enough, the C43 actually going to be a major leap, because you would think, well, wouldn't that be the C63? Wouldn't the C63 be the all-out track monster and, you know, race car that it is for the road? I think the C43 leans more towards being like a C63 than a C300. And it will take some time to get used to if you are upgrading from that C300, because the driving dynamics are completely different. From the steering to the cornering ability to the fact that you do have that steering input from the rear axle. Also, of course, the dual clutch 9-speed is not like the 9-speed that you get in the regular C300, but also this turbocharged 4-cylinder engine is more than willing and capable to put a smile on your face and push you back in your seat. And it has been a long time since I've experienced a car like this that really gives you that old school feel that German cars were known for. Even though people are gonna say, oh, I miss the V6, oh, I'm gonna miss the V8 in the C63. Just wait until the C63 comes out, because if this is any indication of what that car is going to be offering, my goodness, I think a lot of buyers are going to love it, but also it's going to be a game changer in this segment, where if people are going to be excited for a turbocharged 4-cylinder, that is going to help propel and really revolutionize this segment as a whole, because we have been holding on to the V8 and also the inline 6 and V6 for a very long time. How much longer do we have left with those powertrains? And I think a lot of people are concerned about going with the Turbo 4, or what does electrification look like in the modern age. But if this is a small glimpse of that future, I'm not too scared anymore. In fact, I think this is going to be one heck of a package at around $65,000 to $70,000. So to quickly wrap up this review, the 2023 Mercedes Benz C43 AMG is quite the beast, and really is a baby AMG GT sedan on the more affordable side of the lineup. What this car is giving you is something that's very unique, which is why, as I said during the test drive, it's difficult for me to try comparing it to a BMW MT40i or Audi S4 because of the amount of technology that is found under the hood. This is a revolutionary sedan that could be setting the stage and setting the tone for where we see the automotive industry move in this market, probably by the end of this decade, where the inline 6 and V6, their days are numbered. And I think as enthusiasts are wondering, are we going to enjoy a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine? Well, with the C43, it is fun, and it's very captivating and enticing, which is why I think that when the C63 comes out, it's very possible that we might not be missing that V8. Now, of course, we will be missing that V8 roar and rumble, but with the C43, this has really given me a taste of what we should be expecting, and if that's the case, this is going to be really, I think, a historical car heading into the middle portion of this decade, because this is really something we've never seen before. And the fact that you can get this much power out of a Turbo 4 is quite remarkable. And Mercedes-Benz is doing amazing things right now with their lineup, and more specifically with this platform. Whether it's a C300 or C43, this car is making quite the bold statement. And when you take a look at the interior technology, but also just the overall performance, this is a car you can't sleep on, and definitely a car you must experience for yourself. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.